Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast here. We still haven't got a name for it. As always, we've got Wajid alongside us to talk about the Australian Grand Prix that's ahead of us and what's happened in the season so far. So, first of all, without me droning on and sending people to sleep like happened in my last stream, we're going to have a little bit of a news readout. So, Wajid, first of all, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good as we are. And we said before this, we're not gonna bash Red Bull, but the fallout from Saudi Arabia, sorry, similar tracks, um, from Saudi Arabia is still going on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Good old Red Bull. We genuinely do try to be as impartial as possible on this podcast. We really, really do. And for an energy company and for a marketing company, you guys sure as heck love your PR in all the wrong way. In all the wrong way.
Yeah, it's true. And for those who don't know, the story is obviously relating to the final laps of Saudi Arabia, where Sergio Perez stated that he was in cruise mode to get to the end of the Grand Prix, and Max sort of took a different order in terms of getting the fastest lap. Well, I'll leave it down to Wajid to mention what Helmut Marko has had to say, because yet again he's decided to open his mouth.
So, Mr. Marco has come out and said that essentially Checo was lying about not knowing the fastest lap, or he should have been aware that Max was going to go for the fastest lap, and that Checo went for the fastest lap, totally botched sector one, hence why he couldn't go for it. Instead of just saying, instead of just going with the line, or actually giving Max a telling off. Why would we do that? Because it's not like everyone, it's not like the entire pit wall was saying, Max, this is your lap time, stick to your lap time, stick to your delta, stick to your delta. Max chose to ignore, and Helmut Marko loves being in the news, loves protecting Max at all costs, and here we are again. It's if no one thought about, if anyone was of the thought that there is parity and fairness in Red Bull. We're two races in and it's already started.
Yeah, I mean, it does hark back a little bit to Multi 21, where if the team did say something to Max in terms of don't go for fastest lap and said to Perez, don't go for fastest lap, bring the cars home, and that was the understanding, we're heading back to a Multi 21 situation where the drivers took it into his own hands, this time Sebastian Vettel. And what happened at the end of that year? Sergio Perez, well, it was Mark Webber, Sergio Perez in this instant, walked away at the end of the season. And the next season, Sebastian got absolutely whooped by Daniel Ricciardo in the new version of the car. Now, obviously, we haven't got brand new rules coming for a few years yet, but is this maybe the same story happening again? Because on that day in Malaysia 2012,
2012, yeah.
um, yeah, Horner and, well, we remember the famous words of Mark Webber: Seb will get his protection as always, and he'll be done with. So yeah, it's a situation that we're thinking, is it the same happening again?
I Everyone knows Danny Rick is essentially the third driver this year, the test driver this year. Checo has an extension, but we know contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on in Formula One. Um, I, to be honest, I predicted he'd be gone like midway to three quarters of the way through the season. If he keeps up this form, he'll probably be there till the end of the season. But I'm still very skeptical that there's going to be a 2016, 2015, 2014 Mercedes level battle in that car. I really am, because history has proven otherwise in terms of car development, and sort of how they lean towards Max. What is there to, I don't see, if Checo does somehow win 3 in a row, do you really think that's going to continue?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I just let's see, because obviously Albert Park throws up, as you can see at the bottom, unexpected results, and then we have Baku, which we know Sergio is really good around. So until we get to Spain, probably is it Spain or Imola's next?
Imola.
So it's until we get to Imola, we're not really going to know even the true situation, I think, because that's the first time we get onto some proper circuits. First up, in terms of Australia, though, obviously we'll stick with Red Bull here. Red Bull, it's a bit of a jinx circuit for them. Won once back in 24. I want to say 2014, but it's not 2014.
It was no, because that was
the year they had the Daniel Ricciardo come in. Bear with me, 2011.
2014 was the year Danny Rick got disqualified from third place.
That's right, yes. It was 2011 that Sebastian Vettel took the win. Ironically, at the start of his absolute, that was the one season he destroyed everybody. Then that season and 2013, the two in between were proper title fights. But Red Bull have only been on podium, I think it's 3 times since. Once second for Sebastian Vettel, once third for Vettel again, and then Max Verstappen only one podium in the Australian Grand Prix. Do we think that's an Australian Grand Prix thing, or do we think actually just this season it's just been the car previously, and they'll probably walk it this weekend?
Well, last year Max would have been on the podium if his car didn't give up, did it? Let's
True.
So
True.
That is as I said, it is a typical Adrian Newey car, incredibly fast but incredibly unreliable. We've already seen some niggles and gremlins in both cars. I think Jeddah, Checo was saying his brakes were going. Obviously, the drive shaft, drive shaft problem Max had, but given the speed of the Red Bull, the way it somehow manipulates its DRS so much better than everyone else, it's going to be a case of the only thing that's going to stop a Bulls win in Australia is whether the car can stay on the track or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it's where they break this jinx as well. I mean, the word jinx for teams is often used a bit too much, but for a team like Red Bull to only have 3 podiums since 2011, obviously 4 with Daniel Ricciardo being disqualified, anything can really happen around Albert Park. And as you can see at the bottom, I've put unexpected results, and we'll move on to that straight away, because Albert Park is a circuit where we get strange results at times. We think back to 99 when we got Eddie Irvine. Well, the first Albert Park was David Coulthard in the McLaren, the first of the Silver Arrow wins ever. Then we had Irvine. Then we had that was 99 when literally I think 7 cars finished the race and Schumacher was the one out the points, ironically. Fishy Keller back in 2005 dominated the weekend to start the season, and then didn't turn up for the rest of it, allowing Alonso and Schumacher to fight the title out.
Sounds about Fishy Keller, to be honest.
Yeah, 2003. That was a race where nobody wanted to win it. Raikkonen led it, Schumacher led it, Montoya led it, and Coulthard ended up winning it in a year-old McLaren, which they ended up, I think, running for the whole season in the end there. We had, obviously, the freak results of Brawn. It wasn't a freak in the end, but, for him to turn up for the first event, ridiculous speed, and never do an Australian Grand Prix ever again, and they've got 100% record in that Grand Prix. Just
Yeah,
insane.
I Honda will pit. How angry would you have been if you were Honda? By the way,
Yeah,
you
I don't think they were. I still think they regret it, and they have big. I think it's played on them. I think their return with McLaren really did that decision really didn't help them.
yeah.
Yeah, in the chat we've got Webber points on debut for Minardi. That was back in 2002, I think, with
Right,
Mika Salo chasing him down.
Raikkonen's win with Lotus.
Yeah, Raikkonen's win with Lotus. 2019, just before COVID hit the calendar, we had Valtteri Bottas winning and getting fastest lap and leading the world championship after round one, and everyone's going, "Oh, porridge, beard, it's working." Yeah, that lasted all of 2 rounds.
3 rounds. Give him 3 rounds.
Okay, 3 rounds. Yeah, you mentioned the Lotus one. We had Jensen with the slicks back in 2012, I think it was, where he put the slicks on, slid off at lap on turn 3, and everyone went, "Nah, it's not ready for slicks." He knew it was ready for slicks, but he fell off, and that actually fooled everybody into going a lap or two longer. And even last year, Charles Leclerc taking victory in the Australian Grand Prix on its return after the 2 hit COVID seasons, where we obviously had the cancellation, then we didn't hold it at all due to the rules over in Australia. Luckily, they are now opened up and everything is fine, or relatively fine, and we managed to have a Grand Prix last year. So if we're going to have an unexpected result, and this isn't about our predictions or anything, but who could you see, Wajid, bringing that unexpected result through at Albert Park?
I'm gonna believe it in him. Lance Stroll. No, Fernando.
Is that an unexpected result now, though?
Yeah. You
Is
still
it
don't.
still unexpected?
You. If you take an Aston, a Ferrari, or a Merc, who is most like who even in historical we're only 2 races in, but historically, who is more likely to take them?
Yeah, yeah. I can give you. I'll give you that. Yeah,
Until an Aston wins a race in sort of quote unquote normal settings, where it's not like a not sort of like, obviously not to disparage it, but Ocon's win in Hungary in 21, or even Gasly's win in Monza. If it's like a straight fight, there's just a reliability issue. There's just an off reliability issue, and it's Alonso. Okay, yeah, you get beat. The Bulls are out, or the Bulls have some issues, but he on race pace beats the Ferrari and the Mercs. It's still unexpected.
yeah. I could give them that. And I did see something the other day actually about the 101th podium for every. Did I say that right? 101th.
101st.
101st. That's the best way to put it. Yeah. Why did I say 101th? Anyway, you're lucky because I was going to put that on the bottom here, and I would look like a right idiot then. 101st podium for any driver has been a win. I believe Kimi did. I believe Schumacher did. I believe Hamilton did. I think Vettel did as well. So, as long as the status sort of was right, and it was a brief look at it last night when I was thinking about going to sleep, so it was maybe I was dreaming it, but yeah, wouldn't that be a podium with a Fernando Alonso victory? What we're talking, 2012 was his last win?
Yeah.
In Germany?
In Germany.
Yeah, so wow. That would be would that mark the comeback? And do you think that's, say that happens, say Alonso this year fights for the title and doesn't get there, and then maybe next year Aston Martin drop back, Mercedes and Ferrari get their act together. Is that it for Fernando? Is this really the last spot, or is he still using Aston as a stepping stone?
This is last spot. It's his last. Look, let's be perfectly honest. If Seb Vettel had not retired, we're talking about Sebastian Vettel in that Aston Martin. Right?
True.
We're talking about yeah, the we're talking about the amount of time and dedication Seb has put into building that. Alonso hasn't put in the work that Seb's done for the last 2 years for that car, or the dedication that or driven that dog at the back or things
Yeah,
like that. We'd be talking about Seb, and let's be honest, no one was going to say Seb is using the Aston Martin for the stepping stone, because
no,
where would the only landing spot be for Seb? He's not going to go back to Ferrari given the relationship.
yeah,
Red Bull wouldn't take him back because they would not want Max versus Seb. The only place he's going is Mercedes, and Mercedes aren't in a position to take
no.
him. So yeah, we're not. I understand the Fernando Renaissance. Oh, he's 41. Blah blah blah. I'm. No one's giving any credit to the dog of a car. Um, the dog of a car. Seb has driven for 2 years to get to that position.
Do I dare say this? If yeah, go on, say it. If it was the other way around, so it was Fernando Alonso in that car for the last 2 years, do we have the same situation?
No, no, we don't.
Because obviously Alonso's work rate.
No, we don't.
No, I completely agree. I don't think we do because yes, Alonso works hard, and don't get me wrong, but I just think the development fight between him and Stroll would have just not not worked.
The reason I put Schumacher, Hamilton, Seb, and Senna to a degree in their own echelon level compared to everyone else is they have all helped develop a car. Michael went to that dog of a Ferrari. Seb has helped develop this Aston. He also, that Red Bull wasn't a title winning car when he jumped into it. It was race winning, but they got blown out of the water by Braun.
Yeah,
Lewis, obviously Lewis with the Mercs, and people seem to forget that title defense McLaren he had was a total pile of shite to drive,
yeah,
and he was part of that team that managed to develop it to the point it became a race winner at the last Grand Prix of the year. And obviously, you don't have the level of success you do at Mercedes if you're not good at the development race. Yes, you have great engineers, but it is from feedback. And
yeah,
as you can see, the engineers have said, yes, we got the car wrong. We should have listened. They've essentially said we should have listened to Lewis. So
yeah,
that so that's why I put those four in an echelon up by themselves, and then sort of Max and Alonso, not in terms of talent, but in terms of team development, are probably a notch below.
I can't say it fairer than that myself. The unexpected results side of things, Albert Park does bring them up. We've said it before. Even in the lower ranks, we had Toyota scoring a point at debut. Webber. Quite often we get the odd disqualification after a race as well because of the nature of the track, and also normally being the season opener, so people haven't got things straightened. This time we actually do have two of the Grand Prix out of the way, so we shouldn't have too much issues. Can you see this track, which obviously does maybe stir up the pot a little bit? We've had Haas go really well here before. Can you see anybody from the midfield making a jump just for the one weekend?
No,
Not into the lead, but into
no,
the podium fight.
no. I can't. It's a Albert Park's now become a glorified speedway, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. We'll get onto that in a minute.
But so, I I very much like the original sort of layout of Albert Park with the quick chicane and things like that.
Yeah,
And I think the change they've made, which we'll get to obviously, the change they made is in the wrong area. But I don't. Albert Park in its current incarnation is whoever has the fastest car, whoever has the quickest top speed is going to win. And generally, given the way midfield, how the midfield teams have laid out, yeah, Alpine might be able to jump the Mercs, but they'll never have the race. They'll never have the race pace. So I just think it's going to be status quo.
Well, we will get onto predictions later, and I think we now worked out what Wajid's going to tell us. But anyway, as you've noticed on previous podcasts, we're absolutely rubbish at predictions, so enjoy these ones coming up in a bit. But Albert Park, we'll get onto the circuit itself. It's a circuit which I I think it gets a bad press. I think it really does get a bit of a bad press for many different reasons. Mainly overtaking. It's always been a bit sort of low on the overtaking side of things, but it's Australia has held 85 Grand Prix in its history since 1928, so obviously not official Formula One Grand Prix, and its current circuit is 3.2 miles long, almost 3.3 miles long, and yeah, it's a circuit which
But do you?
I think people do like. I don't know
But
why it is.
but do you think? Do you think it now gets a bad press because of the width of the cars? Because I do
Yes.
remember that. I do remember those
Yeah.
early races with the smaller cars. Overtaking wasn't a problem. You know,
No.
like you could easily line someone up into turn four, or even I don't know what the I don't know what turns the quick left right used to be, but even that drag down from the quick left right chicane all the way down to the hairpin, there was always was it the current 10 13.
It would be turn 13 on the old version, yeah.
Okay, yeah. But in down into turn 13, there used to be two good. Oh, and the run from the straight to turn one, they used to be overtaking.
Yeah.
Just because the cars have become enormous has made overtaking impossible. And now, given that a lot of teams are now complaining about dirty air from the new generation of cars, um, don't expect except for the glorified DRS track it's now going to be. I wouldn't expect a lot of overtaking. I don't think the track is the issue. I think having cars the width of Hummers is the issue.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. We think back to 96, we had a great battle between Hill and Villeneuve.
And
97, Coulthard held off Schumacher. 98 was the year that Mercedes dominated, absolutely dominated the field by almost, well, they did. They lapped everybody, even Heinz Frentzen on the podium, and they still had time to slow down and lay each other past. 99, we had the 7 cars finish with Irvine winning to kick off what turned out to be a title challenge for him. Yeah, it was just, yeah, I think I agree with you. Even we go back to 2007, we used to have overtaking and stuff, and this is the thing. Like, a lot of people think overtaking should be easy and it should happen a lot, and it shouldn't. It should be a skill, and if you can pull it off, that should be the thing about it. So yeah, and just looking at the current map, it is still turn 13 actually down at the
yeah.
bottom where.
So I don't. There is a skill in overtake. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, if you, like, let's take a let's. I mean, let's if you're on the M25 and you got two coaches lining up, you don't like
Yeah,
being in the third lane trying to overtake two coaches.
yeah,
No, no. So I just I think again I think we're coming back to the old thing. The cars are the issue. The cars need to be narrowed. Because
yeah,
even 2012 with the V8s, it was still a good race.
yeah, yeah. Completely agree. I mean, you should. It shows how much of a challenge the whole circuit was. But Michael Schumacher only got 4 victories here, and it took him till 2000 to get one. Obviously, Ferrari weren't top of the game by then, but it does show you something which,
I mean, I believe Lewis already has two.
yeah, Lewis only has 2. Nico Rosberg has 2. Kimi Räikkönen has 2. Coulthard has 2. Hill has 2. Senna has 2, but they were in Adelaide, obviously. Um, but there's always this talk. There's always this talk of, is Adelaide the better venue or whatever? Numbers did drop when they first went to from Adelaide to Melbourne, but I think that had a lot to do with they back-ended the calendar. So basically, we finished in Adelaide, and then the first race in '96 was Melbourne. So you have that.
But also Adelaide used to be the title decider, not the race opener. There is that as well.
Yeah, so they lost about 100,000 fans basically from the crowd, which, you know, for that swap you'd understand. And actually, that is one stat that you'll never take away from Damon Hill until the COVID years of who's the only driver to win 2 consecutive Grand Prix in the same country, because Hill won the '95 season closer and the '96 season opener, but then we had COVID and started having 2 races everywhere. So that stat slightly goes out the window. But after COVID, the numbers have really, like last year, really peaked up. So it'd be interesting to see what the crowds are like this year, because last year was a 419,000 people turned up overall, which is heading back towards the Adelaide days. So it'd be interesting to see if that happens again. Maybe it was the joy of having Formula One back in the country, maybe. But
I think it was all sports, wasn't it? Because the Australian Open also had sort of record attendees as well. I just think it was because everything would open up. The thing with the viewing figures this year is no one wants to talk about it, but the viewing figures are at their lowest point in 3 years.
Yeah.
So however much people want to sort of sugarcoat, or Drive for Survive has been great. Yeah, the viewing figures might be high in America, but across the rest of the world, the viewing figures for Formula One are dropping. Just quickly, do you think the regulations are doing what they're supposed to be doing?
I think regulations are partly doing what they're supposed to be doing. I also think part of it is, obviously, over the last couple of years, this year and last year, for example, we didn't have Lewis Hamilton up front, a massive draw for everybody, especially being British, and the British fans the British fans normally watch Formula One whether they've got somebody winning or not, but obviously that will deter some fair weather fans. And also Max Verstappen, Dutch. Yes, the Dutch have not had somebody big in Formula One ever, really, but they always follow their people. And I think, obviously, if you had Lewis Hamilton winning the World Championship or whatever, you're going to get a few more people watching than Max, because of the appeal of him. Max doesn't get out there and appeal to, doesn't seem to appeal to many people. He's either a complete Marmite split, sort of, if you support him, great. If you don't, you hate him, type thing.
I don't think he's the right. I understand F1 have wanted to change the face, but quite clearly he's not working as the face of F1, is it?
No, and that's a job of a world champion. You have to get out there and sell the sport. And as you've already mentioned briefly before the podcast, we had Nike having a go at Max Verstappen recently for his, was it number one brand or something?
No. So he released a brand called Max One.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they think that will obviously be...
Well, when you've got a shoe that's literally called the Air Max One.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so...
but just looking at so on the screen we have the sort of track layout. It's now become a glorified speedway.
Yeah.
With a couple of dinks and twists.
I said it to somebody the other day. I miss Turn 9.
So do I.
And I'll tell you why. Because when I used to drive it on a game, it was probably the most difficult corner on Albert Park to get right. Because you had that long run to the chicanes, and you were too busy thinking about 11 and 12 that 9 was Mickey Mouse, I think they used to call it. It was difficult, it was slow, it was cumbersome, but that was the challenge. and then you'd get the run out and try not to hit the wall on the outside of 10. Now it's not a well. The weird thing now is they've put the walls up, haven't they?
Yes,
So
sir.
you've got walls like it's almost super speedway or Baku-esque. How you just funnel down instead of having some
I don't,
runoff or
so they said they talked with the drivers. Did the drivers really want a glorified Baku level straight from turn 8 to what they call turn 12? But let's be honest, 9 and 10 aren't corners.
the problem is in terms of drive. It's the same with the regulations. Oh, we asked the teams. Yeah, well, the teams know what type of car would be built for the front of the grid and to pull away and not be able to be overtook. So they want that to happen so that when they design the quickest car, they're not going to get overtook. And drivers will have the same opinions. And also, I think they pardon the pun, badgered Daniel Ricciardo into helping out with this. And he's probably just got paid a lot of money by Australia to say it's brilliant and things like that. So I don't get why they've done what they've done. But the important thing for this weekend, and you'll be thrilled to hear this, 4 DRS zones will be start finish straight as far as I know. This is as far as I know. Start finish straight 2 to 3. The long stretch from 9-10 to the chicane, and obviously after the chicane down to 13. Do we really need 4? Or do we just allow them to use it?
You might as well just have the DRS open for the entire race.
It just makes no sense.
Right. What the start finish straight, I totally understand. From 2 to 3, that straight is not long enough. From the run because of how the corners lie and the sweep, that run is not long. That run is not long enough, and no car is overtaking round the outside because thankfully at Albert Park, unless they've changed that, they've still got the old style gravel traps where if you go off the racing line, you get punished at Albert Park, which I also think they need to bring back rather than all these stupid tracks everywhere and artificial turf everywhere. But that's it. 2 to 3 is too short. And then just you can have it all from the run from 8 all the way to 12. You don't need it from 12 to 13.
No. Well, the weird thing is, turn 3 is where all the overtaking used to happen anyway. So why do we suddenly need a DRS down there? They literally haven't. The only thing they've done is open it up because they can there. Because for those who don't know, turn 4 and 5 is literally a car park. That's why the runoff's there. It's an old car park for Albert Park during the year. So it's looking at the map we're looking at, I know you're not seeing it on screen, but you may as well do 15 to 2. That line along the back of the paddock. What's the point? Open the DRS there. But
you might as well have 13 and 14 while you're at it as well. It's the only place that's missing.
It just makes. I mean, we scream about it as much as we want, and we're not going to change it because they want entertainment. But DRS, we don't need it. I don't know if anybody saw the NASCAR race this weekend where Jenson Button went and did that. That slightly went the other way because he just said it got a bit silly in terms. He never had a race where he's side by side so often. And why is it they don't have a huge amount of aero? So I don't know why people just don't get this idea that if we cut the aero down like we did in 2009, we start getting differences. But then they want a really close grid. Well, you're not going to get overtaken unless you've got a huge difference. We've got to look back to 97. Villeneuve was on pole by a second round here. He didn't even make it past turn 2. We just don't know what will happen in racing. But yeah, no, I don't. I'm sick of DRS myself.
I'm sick of DRS, but I'm also sick. But I'm sick of these. I've got to the point where if the drivers are now complaining about dirty air from the new cars, the whole point of these regulations was to get rid of the. If engineers have now found a way to stick more aero bits, what are we doing? We brought in turbo high. We brought in turbo. We brought in turbo hybrid. We brought in the aero cars, and nothing's working. Man, can we just go back to like the V10s or V12s, please?
I really don't see why we couldn't, because we've got things like alternative fuels now. I don't see why we couldn't, but we're still badger on with these hybrid systems, which weigh God knows how much and slow the cars down.
They're big, they're heavy, they don't sound. I think for you sort of younger the younger fans and stuff, just go back and listen.
Meaning me.
Yeah, obviously, even though I'm younger than him. Go back and just listen to like a 97, 98, even or the 2000 Ferrari. Just don't watch the race. Just listen. I think there's an interview I think Lewis did in Bahrain where Fernando was driving his
Abu Dhabi, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Sorry,
It's Abu Dhabi, yeah.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where Fernando is driving his old title-winning Renault, and you can hear the car noise whilst he's giving the interview. The way Lewis's face lights up. That's what people because that's what it's car sounds that make you a kid. It's not turbo hybrid.
Be able to go to a Grand Prix, hear it a mile off, get there, and the ground rumbles as it goes past. That's what that's what you're meant to get. I'm sorry to harp on about the old days, but it is. Waj is exactly right. But you know.
Anyway, we sound like two old men.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Muppets?
So let's get into the predictions. Anyway.
We are going to actually at one point just get ourselves like a little like stand up in the theatre. But I mean, if you know what, we did forget one thing. Oh no, that wasn't what we forgot. I clicked the wrong button there. But what we did forget was one little thing which we were going to do. So we'll do it for predictions, and as it's Australia, we'll do the predictions. Where are we gone? We'll start with predictions for our Australian colleagues. Hello. We were meant to do this at the start, but we completely forgot. And to be honest, I don't know about Wajid, but I'm looking at this screen and it's sending my eyes.
It's messing with my head.
I honestly feel like blood's going to my head here, but we'll stop the stereotypical form, and we'll make everybody feel a little bit better by switching us back. I'm not actually sure which way I look better, but anyway. Yeah. There you go. It looks like I've got hair on the top of my head now. Anyway, prediction time. As always, I'll get my trusty notebook and we will go into prediction time. A pen is in here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so we've got the Aussie GP predictions.
So, just for sort of new fans and stuff.
We can't predict.
Well, one, we can't predict, but essentially we make 9 predictions. So, as in top 3 for qualifying, top 3 for the Grand Prix, and 3 things that we think are going to happen over the weekend. So you can score a maximum of 9 points. We've had 2. Out of a current total of 18 points, I'm on 3, Dev's on 2.
Yeah. I almost got Mercedes podium.
Almost, not quite.
No. Okay, so qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix. Your prediction, please, Wajid.
Checo, Max, Leclerc. I think that's a mistake.
What, at the top?
Yeah, but
sorry. Do you think it'd be Logan Sargent?
I thought it was going to be Lance.
My prediction for, please, if you're in the Twitch chat, pop your predictions below. If you're on YouTube, pop your predictions below as well, and we'll have a look at them once we've done ours. Q qualifying. I'm going to go. Can't believe I'm doing this.
The crowd waits with anticipation.
Leclerc, Perez, Hamilton. Top three.
No way. For qualifying.
You're right there, mate.
For qualifying.
It's there.
Fair play.
I'm just giving you a head start on all these. It's fine.
Is it?
For the race, your prediction, Wajid.
I can't believe I'm about to do this. Max. No, Max. Lewis. Leclerc. Fernando.
Would you like to explain your race choices while I'm writing them down?
I think it's going to be a rough day for the Bulls.
You think the Jinx will return?
Yeah, I do.
Wow. Just move that mic so it... Oh. Should never move it. It's stuck. Stay. If I move it round, it starts messing around.
I can't believe
wow.
I've done that.
Okay.
I can't believe I've done that.
You got time to change it?
No.
No? My results.
I'm giving you the opportunity to come back. Just got someone in the just got ad in the chat saying, "Really hope you're right, Wajid. Believe me, mate. So do I."
Yeah. Adam, pop your predictions below. We'll add them to the list and we'll add them to the list, not add them.
Oh
to
my
the list.
god.
I only just realised that when I said it. Right, we're going. Right, remember I've gone Leclerc, Perez, Hamilton. I'm going. Oh, come on. Who do I put third? I can't. I'm going to have to put him because.
That sounds like Fernando Alonso in third.
Third, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
Second, Lewis Hamilton. And first,
Max Verstappen.
Sergio Perez.
You're really predicting a bad week for Max, aren't you?
I think he's going to lose his head if Perez is quicker and start making mistakes.
You mean like 2021 pressure?
We'll get back to the Max who, we'll get back to the Max who suddenly goes out and I'm doubting myself. Because normally Perez turns up for one race and then the next race he's pretty much behind him. You know, we looked last year, Monaco, Perez really, really quick. Got to Baku, he was quick, and then all of a sudden dropped off. So I just wonder, yeah.
Do you think Max is not mentally there? Do you think Max is still not mentally there? Do you think because, like, everyone knows what happened in 2021, but do you think Max was as dominant as he was because the car worked for him, they developed for him, and no one challenged him? Do you think Max still hasn't got the mental fortitude for a challenge?
I think Brazil and the challenge at the start from Lewis and Mercedes, and then also not even being able to, you know, maybe even help Perez in any kind of way last year and this year, you know, obviously like trying to nick the fastest lap at the end, which I understand, but there's a you know, if we look at it, we are kind of looking Mercedes-esque dominance. There isn't really any need to start nicking fastest laps and rushing the car. And I think the comments afterwards, you know, we saw, yes, we know Jos Verstappen shook the hands of Checo, but that was after Checo put his hand out. You know what I mean? You can still look happier than he did.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I think when you put Max under pressure,
He
yes,
doesn't
you
have to,
get a very good driver. You know,
but
we
he
look back to Hungary when he crashed on formation lap and they rebuilt the car on the grid and he was under pressure to perform that day. We look back to, you know, he can do moments of quality, but wheel to wheel with somebody who he knows could beat him, say Lewis, he will crack still. Give him 2 or 3 bad weekends in a row and he'll crack.
interesting. So for those, we've got a prediction in the chat for those watching on YouTube. So Adam has gone for quali. His comments pretty much. I'm going simple. Quali, Max, Nando, Checo, race, Max, Checo, Nando.
So he's gone for Red Bull 1, 2, 3.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Our wild cards, I guess.
You can go first. You can go first.
I'm going to go first. Okay. I thought I was the one in charge of this. Right. Let's see. I'm going to go for Haas. Let's go for a nice easy one, which is a Haas in Q3.
You said that. You said that last week.
Did I?
You said that last week with the safety cars.
Oh no, I said Piastri in out in Q1 as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Haas in Q3. Well, one car at least. So that's my first one. Wajid?
I'm going Piastri Q3.
Wow.
One Aussie has to perform in Australia.
Considering we said Q1 I said Q1 last time and he ended up in Q3. You said Q3 this time.
He's going to be in Q1 this time.
He's going to be 19th or 20th for miles
probably.
off pace, isn't he? I'm going to go for... Yeah, I can do it with my prediction. I'm going to go for a Red Bull retirement. And obviously off my prediction, I'm expecting it to be Max, but a Red Bull retirement. So both cars won't finish the race.
I'm going...
That was his impression of Skippy, by the way.
We're really hitting this age demographic with some of the stuff we say on the show, you know.
Yeah.
I am going for a Red Bull collision. The Red Bulls hit each other.
Would you like to expand on that, Eddie? Like, are we on about like to a point where they spin each other off, or are we just talking rubbing?
No, like a broken end.
Damage.
Yeah, damage.
Okay. Which, to be honest, you breathe on these modern cars, and yeah, Perez will just like onto Max's car, and it'll probably break something.
My final, sorry, I got my final, but my final prediction is no points for George Russell.
A donut for George Russell. Okay, and my final one will be... I'm gonna... How far were they back in? They were quite far back in Saudi, weren't they? I'm gonna go for Williams, because I think I've put Williams in there pretty much every time. Double points for Williams.
That's gonna backfire.
Yeah, double points for Williams. So Piastri, Sargent and
Albon
will be in the points in some kind of capacity.
So as you see, guys, we're probably by the end of next week. We'll probably
We'll
be at
probably
like
be on 4 and 3.
five for 27, 5 for 27.
5. That means you're getting 2 right.
I am getting. I'm going to based on last week's point scoring.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much, but we will see. That is our predictions for the Grand Prix, and we will see if they become right next Monday. We'll be doing the podcast around the same time again on Twitch. If you're over on YouTube, thanks for watching, and come and join us on Twitch for the review of the Australian Grand Prix. Yeah, for the review of the Australian Grand Prix last week. Man,
This week, upcoming week.
Turning me upside down really didn't help, did it? Yeah, so tune in via Twitch to see it live and get your comments into the podcast. If you don't want to and you want to catch us on YouTube, feel free, leave your comments below. We can always add them to the next podcast and sort of answer you there, or even on YouTube. So if you also can, please give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube and on Twitch. Give us a follow, and if you want to subscribe via Twitch, that is up to you using Amazon Prime or your own ways of payment. I'm just trying to think of the social medias. They will be back up and going soon, so please also go across to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we're all on there at Motor Magpie or at Motorsport Magpie. And also, to add on to the end of this, we've missed this the last few times and I haven't added it to the thing below. Wajid, if people want to catch you instead of going through the middleman, where can people find you?
Find me on IG at Burnout Travels. That is my travel Instagram page. As Dave well knows, I probably will be doing a couple of races from abroad, because that's generally what happens on this podcast.
Yeah. We've had some interesting spots, including a travel lodge before,
which was the worst connection out of the lot, man.
Yeah, it really was. And you've done some podcasts from some different places.
So yeah, please find me there on IG or on Twitter at Wajid Ghani. But that's everything from me.
Yeah, I think that's everything from me as well. So we've got the Australian Grand Prix coming up. It'll be a 6 a.m. start, I believe, to race. So set your clocks not as early as you used to. That's where the older ones of us, I'll spit it out in a minute, the older ones of us will remember getting up at about 2 or 3 o'clock for the Grand Prix, and not really remembering the rest of Sunday because we'll be fast asleep. But yeah, nice, much better time for the Australian Grand Prix this time. So please join us then to watch the Grand Prix. Well, you won't join us because we won't be live, but anyway, join us next Monday for a review show where will we be seeing our predictions right? If we do, it will make a certain interesting championship heading into what will be a 2 or 3 week break before Baku. So it'd be a lot on the minds of the drivers if our predictions are right. But going off this season, maybe not. Till then, we will see you next week for the Australian Grand Prix review.
Peace.
There we go.